French Institute of the Near East, which is the co-organizer of this panel with Majal, which is the urban observatory also of the Majal, founded and directed by Serge Yazigi. And at the beginning, this panel originates at the very beginning of the idea of the gentrification in Beirut, because whatever we call gentrification, whatever it is, class-based struggle, dispossession, or urban upgrading or renewal, at the end of the day, it's also people replacing people with different modes of producing socio-cultural spaces and economic flows. But in Beirut, Beirut is becoming more and more, not exclusively, but more and more, an extreme paradigm of a mere speculative commodification where people, commerces, and activities are replaced by vacant spaces and semi-inhabited buildings. So we could call it maybe gentrification through vacuum, which is very specific. So hence the idea to organize a comparative panel between different ways of responding or resisting this kind of gentrification, and taking examples in Beirut, but also outside of Beirut. So to introduce these examples, we have three panelists. The first one will be Dr. Yazigi, who is a regional consultant in sustainable development and has acquired experience working in the Mashrek countries. So he's the founder of Majal since 2007. And he has provided technical assistance to several local authorities in the elaboration of sustainable development plans. He has also coordinated projects aimed at facilitating research in planning-related topics, and also in charge of courses related to history and theory in planning at Alba University. The second speaker will be Xavier Casanovas, so Serge will talk about Mikhael and Blat, which will echo to the presentation of Marike yesterday. Xavier Casanovas is an architect, engineer, and archaeologist. He is professor at Universität Politecnica de Catalunya in Barcelona. And he's also the president of the NGO REHABIMED, and he's also an expert of European Council, UNESCO, UNDP, member of ICOMOS, and he has a huge experience in rehabilitation, restoration, urban regeneration, and cultural heritage development in countries such as Morocco, Mauritania, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Palestine, and Syria, or Lebanon, but also in Latin America, such as in Cuba, Mexico, Nicaragua, or Bolivia. So he will speak about Barcelona, where tourism is the main issue in terms of commodification of downtown. And our third speaker will be Eric Huybrechts, who is a senior architect and urban and regional planner, and he's also professor at Institut Français d'Urbanisme in Paris, member of a very dynamic scholar laboratory which is called Dynamite. He is in charge of the international affairs of the planning in Région Paris-Île-de-France. And he was also the former director of CERMOC, which was the first name of the Lebanese branch of the French Institute. But he will intervene today as a practitioner, not as a professor, because his experience is covering several scales from urban heritage, for instance, Blat and Fener in Istanbul, or North Gamaliya in Cairo. He's also expert in land use regulation in Tripoli, Libya, or Greater Mumbai, metropolitan planning in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, or Greater Algiers, and finally regional planning in Ethiopia, and also, last but not least, in Damascus. So he will speak about 4 examples of, I don't know if we can call it gentrification, but of vision of city which are implemented in very different 4 examples: Paris, Mumbai, Phnom Penh, and the last one will be Istanbul. Okay, so we will begin now. I will leave the floor to Serge, and try to stick to your 20 minutes, please.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you. Is it working? Thank you, Cynthia, Mona, and Robert, for giving us actually the opportunity to participate into this interesting debate. I will start immediately. My topic is the following. It's strategies. Yes. So it's strategies to respond to the gentrification in Mikhael and Blat. So definitely I won't be speaking about the dynamics of gentrification. The Beirut panel did it quite well. So I will be focusing on strategies to respond. Now, to face gentrification in those two neighborhoods, I think one needs to reflect on several measures. The objective being to limit its destructive speed. The pace is so quick and so much destructive, and try as much as possible to mitigate its negative impact. So I won't also get into this large debate. We know that gentrification embeds positive and negative things. I'm not only concerned here about how to try to reduce the speed of what's happening and mitigate potentially its negative impacts. What we'll try to demonstrate in this note is that though several measures can be used to counter the undergoing gentrification processes in Beirut, at the same time, we might need to rely on a more comprehensive global approach, one that could potentially use the existing dynamic of the private sector instead of relentlessly trying to fight it. So this is what I'm going to try to demonstrate, and I'm completely aware that it will definitely open towards some debate. First step in my mind would be that we need to have an assessment and the monitoring process. In both areas, shall it be Blat or Mikhael, we don't have necessarily available comprehensive data. And it is also very much important that a strategic assessment of the situation is led, because it doesn't only helps a community to figure out what is taking place, but will also provide a baseline of information that can be monitored. This is what's really important. We need to monitor and assess in order to envision adapted solutions. In the case of Blat, a very interesting and important study had been done, I think, and revised in 2004 by the German Institute. Later on in 2008-9, very modestly, Majal tried to start also gathering some data, and we faced a lot of difficulties into this. Unfortunately, this exercise couldn't find any financement later on to be redone, so we can have, data being completed and monitored. Currently in Mikhael, there's an interesting project, Medneta, undergoing, but we don't know later on if the exercise will be taken again. So this is really important. The assessment has to cover information on displacement. I think this is the delicate point of the most vulnerable population, such as the elders, and these we don't have them in most cases, the disabled, and those with the most limited incomes that are start facing eviction. Or when the indigenous businesses, as well as some newly implemented creative activities, which is the case, for example, of Mikhael, can no longer afford rent in the neighborhoods. We need precise data on these. If one decides to push further, indicators such as renter to homeowner rates, vacancy and abandonment rates, affordability indexes, and spatial analysis of nationalities, in the case of Lebanon it's important, and poverty levels could turn out to be essential. So this would be potentially the first step of this strategy. But then the strategy embeds 4 main actions that should be considered. The 4 categories, I will start speaking about 2 first of them, and I will describe them as containment measures. These 2 first measures are to try to stabilize existing renters, and the second one being to preserve built fabric. So to stabilize existing renters, we all know that we're facing the absence of any explicit affordable housing policies on the national level. And therefore, it may seem that any action could be quite limited. Now, the existing rental law, the one that may have contributed as some experts consider, in the stabilization of some of the tenants, while at the same time leading some owners to sell their properties for developers. The newly presented rental law I think we don't have yet enough time. We didn't have, space to understand exactly what would be its implication. Also, I won't get into this debate, but I expect that it might be a dual effect. So it's not necessarily going to go completely against or with gentrification. We need some time to understand this. But in this still unclear legal context, working hand in hand, I would suggest, for example, as creative measures with the banking or private or sector in the absence of public policies might be the only solution at hand. I'm going to give a sample. The existing housing bank loans conditions might be still out of reach for some of the residents or non-adapted to some of the users, mainly the creative industries. Still, some initiatives could be taken into this line to encourage the banking sector to develop its product for neighborhoods, mainly Mikhael, I believe. As a sample, the Central Bank of Lebanon, with the help of the European Union and the collaboration of related national ministries, did put in place, maybe you've heard about it, a national financing mechanism. It's called the NERA, National Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Action, that allows private sector entities to apply for subsidized loans for any type of energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. One can subsequently imagine that such mechanism could also be adapted to help directly or indirectly some of the tenants to become owners, or even some owners to rehabilitate and restructure their properties. This should be investigated, I think. Now, the second point, always in containment measures, clearly is to preserve the built fabric. Now, gentrification in the specific case of the capital's pericentral areas has the particularity of being coupled with substantial heritage and urban morphology destruction, for reasons mainly related to the existing rental law. As existing measures have failed so far in the objective of preservation, practical and innovative measures should be considered. Now, as it was done at some point with the limited success maybe in Gemaise, we should stop the authorization for parceling, redistribution and groupment of parcels, as well as put an end to the granted exemptions in the building code, knowing that both measures have a direct relation to the high-rise towers erection in these areas. In both areas, Blat and Mikhael. The decision and responsibility of the previous are, among others, relevant to the High Council of Urban Planning. Secondly, the necessity to put the district under study, as per the local urban planning code, through a decision by the Municipal Council of Beirut, knowing that the reduction of actual building ratio will be faced, we know that, with fierce politico-financial resistance. But this measure could at least have the benefit of impacting on the pace of new developments. So it's only for the purpose of trying to gain some time. The opportunity of this master plan can constitute a base to revise some outdated administrative measures, mainly expropriation and road alignments that threaten the existing urban fabric, such as, you have all heard about it, the Fuad Butros highway that threatened the morphology of Mikhael, or the enlargement that threatened the Bustani school. That's something maybe you didn't hear about. So there's this first laïc school, the first one in the Ottoman period, was in Blat, and there's a road enlargement that threatened to demolish it. Third point, into the preservation of the urban fabric, would be to reconsider the listing of existing buildings on the heritage list of the Ministry of Culture in both areas, and in an approach of a morphology to be preserved and not only segregated buildings. I know that this is something we have spoken for 15 years about and we didn't reach anything, but we still have to point it, hopefully. And I would add that all school buildings, for example, in the Blat area should be preserved. And in the case of Mikhael, the stairs and their direct limit and surrounding. And I know the Ministry of Culture has already initiated some measures into that, and this is really important. Now, the two other points, always in this strategy, would constitute kind of a more proactive approach. The 2 points are the following: enhance the quality of life in the neighborhood and structure the mobilization of the civil society. The first point, enhance the quality of life in the neighborhood, I know that it could have some adverse effect, because once we do that, we also attract even more private developers. But I think that nevertheless it is something that should be done and considered. And public spaces are definitely the first receptacle of the efforts to be conducted. Pavements, roadsides, and stairs have to be reworked, taking into considerations not only the aesthetical aspect, but also the security and the need to increase accessibility, mainly for vulnerable populations such as elderly, kids, pregnant women, and so on. At some point, Majal did submit a report on that, and in order to encourage the accessibility to public spaces to vulnerable populations. The lack of parkings is also a crucial point. The few still vacant plots might be too expensive. We did investigate on these in Mikhael and so on and Blat. But if the cost is too high, then the municipality, and if the municipality cannot expropriate them, then we need to think of other measures. These restrictions should require from the developers. The municipality can put restrictions. It doesn't cost her a lot. Should require from developers to provide substantial additional parkings within their projects, where possible. The municipality could offer some financial initiatives or incentives or initiatives and distributions to encourage developers in this regard. I'm going a little bit faster because I want to get to the last point. Also, within the strategy, it is essential to structure the mobilization of the civil societies. In all countries, gentrification was, people were able kind of to face or to limit the negative effect of gentrification through civil society. Now, to face these complex issues, civil society, corporate bodies, and association have to present their cases and defend their interests as much possible united and structured entities. Lobbying is necessary when it comes to pushing forward for needed administrative measures in complex situations where contradictory interests are so much imbricated, as it is the case in both neighborhoods. One can suggest the creation of a special body for the creative industries, for example, in Mikhael, because they have this certain power. In Blat, due to the political and confessional divisions, we have to admit that the mobilization of the civil society is currently non-existent, and it cannot be expected to be structured anytime soon. What I would like to conclude for this first part is that as social and economic fragmentation are increasing in the two neighborhoods, and as indicated in both above-mentioned studies, the prevailing political situation, we know that it does not encourage public authorities in assuming their roles. And definitely we need them to assume their roles at the planning level. One can wonder if any effective measures to limit gentrification could soon find its way towards implementation. So it's a question. I'll give you samples. Following the report produced by Majal in 2009 within an EU-funded REHABIMED project to Beirut municipality, it was a huge report, a need for a comprehensive approach was promoted with a set of action covering the legal and institutional framework. We did talk about them all, okay? And as well as a renewable urban approach, because we think it can only be faced within a renewable urban approach that goes beyond building preservation. Unfortunately, since that period, the municipality limited its actions to the initiation of the expropriation of, you already heard about them, potentially the two ancient buildings in Blat, the Khoury mansion and Fayrouz house, and you know also all the time that it requested, and it's a process still undergoing. So it shows you how much limited, okay, we know sometimes where are the solutions, but we're not being able to get there. Now, we know that other encouraging measures are under implementation by the Ministry of Culture for the protection of some stairs in Mikhael. But once again, would this be enough to face or to be, as a strategy to face gentrification? I don't think so. Several following interventions, such as promoting the elaboration of strategic plan, most of you didn't hear about it, but we worked on that for 1 year with Beirut municipality, and it stumbled again. And they fear that it's a kind of Pandora box. Once they start reviewing the zoning ratios in Beirut, then they would fear that the private sector would come in and would impose completely its increase. So they're afraid even of opening this door. So as the ongoing gentrification process in these neighborhoods is purely a market-driven development with no mitigation expected, not much mitigation expected from the public sector, we can't predict because we want to know how and when will it stop or reduce its path. Unfortunately, I believe that it will only reduce its path one certain limit by the market itself of saturation reaches certain levels of saturation. So it's the market who will define if we're still going the same pace that we're going through. It's the market that will indicate when we reach the level of saturation, leaving these neighborhoods severely damaged in terms of social and urban fabric. In previous debates, I have compared this phenomenon to a cyclone because it started in Monod, then it went to Gemaise, and then to other. It just turns, it spins. Okay, I compared it also to a cyclone because it's quite rapid. It's with high intensity and with high destructive pace. Okay, and it goes from one neighborhood to the other. So shall we keep talking about strategies to limit gentrification, or, and this is what I would like to debate, potentially strategies to launch new urban renewal dynamics? Maybe this could be a door. Could the battle to limit gentrification have better chances to be won if instead of fighting the private development forces, one manages to integrate their dynamic into a more sustainable urban development? The restructuring of the two neighborhoods could actually constitute an opportunity to bring forward new effective approach when it comes to the urban revitalization of Beirut Paris-Central areas, especially when we have a clear vision over their respective roles and potentialities. In the case of Blat, it's a cultural zone. It could be, I know now the difficulties that it's facing, but if we go back to its history, maybe potentially one day it will be again a cultural zone that could serve as an articulation between the historic center, East and West Beirut, as well as between the historic core and Paris-Central areas. For Mikhael, and that's something maybe a little bit more interesting, it could be a major economic axis linking between the historic center and Burj Hamoud areas. Just imagine if we can really fluidify this and re-intensify it, re-dynamize this, something that would benefit to them both in terms of economic complementarity. This approach could actually contribute in revitalizing the center as well as Mikhael. When we know that meanwhile some developers are thinking of having new small solidaires in neighboring areas, such as Bashura and others, this means that we do have to think of some solution. I would like here to open a door about, something about Solidaire. I know that Solidaire has most of the time been considered by researchers and scholars as a model to be mainly criticized, and urban planners and concerned local authorities as have not really fulfilled their role. But at the same time, we didn't completely, I think, investigate all the potential lessons that could be driven from this major operation in terms of urban renewal and its capacities of replication in some Paris-Central areas. I know this is quite dangerous, while bringing in, and I stress on this, the needed amendment and readjustment. I know you would tell that when we have such a weak public sector, can we bring in the needed amendment and readjustment? I will keep it for the debate. So I will end up with this. Could the driving force of the private sector in Lebanon be channeled towards a more sustainable model than Solidaire's? Could we benefit from some of the positive lessons learned through this pioneering experience? This question will surely raise a lot of debate, but could be worth at least thinking of. We hope shifting at some point some of the negative aspects of the prevailing gentrification process in some Paris-Central areas in Beirut towards a more positive dynamic of urban renewal. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's great for me to be here with all of you. I want to thank the organizer to invite me to be here. And I have to apologize for my English. I am sorry. In any case, I will do my best to explain to you what is the successful urban design in the city center of Barcelona and the gentrification process that arrived. Well, the city center of Barcelona, the historical city, is this part. It is the Barceloneta, and this is Gracia, Sants. Then at the end of the 19th century, the Barcelona was only this part inside the walls, and at the end of in 1870, the Cerdà plan proposed the opening of the city to Eixample. All this part is the Cerdà plan that is made after 1870. And when the walls disappear, the wealthy classes gradually built new houses in the Eixample, and the city center density was lower. After the Civil War, all the Eixample was fully consolidated, and the industrial development of the city attract immigrants from all regions of Spain, and these people must go living on this area around the city. And the city center start with a gradual degradation and abandon of this part of the city. It is the city of Barcelona, the nice city of Barcelona. This is the historical center. This is Barceloneta. As you can see, it's attractive. But in the 1970s, in the 1980s, it was inhabited by poor people. This port was industrial port, and the access to the sea don't exist in this area. Now it's full of beaches. Then, when the democracy arrived in 1979, I am taking advantage of the momentum that allowed the organization of 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona. Barcelona decided to start its urban regeneration. The situation in 1980 was 70% of the buildings in this area with more than 100 years old, 2% in danger of collapsing, 7,000 homes without bathroom, obsolete sewage system and infrastructures, 5,000 people working in prostitution, 20 square centimeters of green space for inhabitants, and a declining commercial activity. Well, it was the situation in 1980. In 1983, a specific plan for the old city was approved by the municipality with the consensus between different actors, with the agreement between the city, the region, Catalunya, and the state, Spain, with co-financing the actions with the public and the private sector, with a very precise timetable planning for every operation, and also it was created Procibesa as a structure to manage the process. The urban regeneration process has been long and not without cost for the life of the residents. The important works, both on an urban and building scale, disturb the commercial activity and all the activities and the quality of life of the inhabitants in this period, in this part of the city. But we were successful, and in 2000, 80% of the planned operations have been carried out, opening new public spaces, creation of new homes, rehabilitation of old buildings, local public centers, urban public centers, and improvement of all the infrastructure in this part of this district. You can see here houses, museums, library, hotels. It is clear that a major improvement of the quality of life in these previously degraded areas was successful. This leads to a careful and sensitive transformation, which in the process required the inhabitants to make sacrifice and renonces. In 2000, the analysis revealed new problems. The old problems were solved, but new problems arrived to the city. Difficulties with inner mobility. Conflicts between the concept of living in the neighborhood and using the old city for the benefit of the city as a whole. Conflicts between district life and the use of this part of the city as a tourist attraction. The dimension of public space don't allow diversification of the use nor the creation of green spaces. Lack of compatibility of commercial activities, emergence of widespread speculation on real estate, and a powerful network of association. It was the analysis that in 2000 showed the situation and the problems for the city. Then, for me, in this moment, the gentrification starts. Traditional activities disappears to offer new products and new services for a new kind of customer. The speculation on real estate is very lucrative in historical districts. You can see everywhere. And in this period, a very important demographic change was done. You can see on the age of the people, the old people from 25% to 14%. And you can see the origin of the inhabitants. 90% were local inhabitants. And in 2013, 60% of Catalans become 36%, and 33% of Spanish, not from Catalunya, from other regions of Spain, this 33 becomes 13. And the foreign people becomes really largest. Then the initial regeneration projects strategy reinforced the fact of keeping the local population in the site. It was a clear idea by the decision makers. But later, the free market economy detected an attractiveness and business opportunity in this area, in these districts, and slowly but gradually changed the social and economic structure of some neighborhoods following different models. In some districts, the tourists take an important role. In other, the middle class and young people comes to these districts. All this situation spells the traditional inhabitants of the districts, which are replaced by middle-class families, hotels and tourist apartments. The conflict appears to find a balance and harmony between tourism and leisure and the daily life of residents. This is an example. A street named Blat, 450 meters. In 1995, only have 5 bars and 0 terraces because the cars circulate by this street. In 2014, we have now 41 bars and 30 terraces. You can imagine how pleasant it is to be here in summer on the night, and you can imagine how complicated it is to sleep here up on the first floor, on the second floor of this street on the night with the noise produced by all these terraces that take all the street. The tourism. In 2000, these are the hotels that exist in Barcelona. In 2009, these are the hotels in the central area of Barcelona. You have to mean that Barcelona is a small city, only 1.5 million inhabitants. In 1993, we had 2 million tourists. In last year, 8 million of tourists. And the municipality expects very soon to have 10 million of tourists. I imagine you know this, the monopoly game. Well, the tourism create some problems, and the inhabitants start to speak with the tourists in this way. The local organizations reinforced during the process of urban regeneration now take a new role, expressing their rejection and facing the authorities' projects and decisions. Initially, the gentrification was not a serious problem. However, it was gradually gaining strength to the point to gentrifying to generating citizen revolts. One of the most recent revolt in Barcelona last year, due to the level of pressure of tourism is putting to local neighborhood. You can see, not that all the tourists do it, but these situations create big problems on the district. And what the people do? Then demonstrations. That is a demonstration about the problem in the Barcelona district. This is a demonstration in the street that I showed you before, Blat Street, where the people say the municipality make business with our life. Well, for sure, the newspapers speak about all these things, and a very famous journalist ask for the cars to become back to the street because it's better to have cars than to have terraces and people using these terraces for long in the night. Then the city council understand that this is a very important problem, and also understand that real estate is becoming more and more powerful. The main proposal was the uses plan, to regulate the uses of the city. But the inhabitants name it the abuses plan. Today, the city council, the hoteliers, and the developers are rethinking the tourist policy through to the city. In addition, some limits are being established for the bars' timetables. However, so far, these actions have been timid and ineffective to the objective set. That is the uses plan made by the city council. It's not the case to go to the detail, but you can imagine in different areas, different uses, different possibilities, hotels, terraces. But it is the answer of the inhabitants organizing demonstration, telling to the people the municipality want to sell our city. And another factor arrived with the big economic crisis that began in 2007. Now in Spain, the tax on unemployment rate is 25%, and for the young people is 50%. That is our situation today in Spain. Then, consequence, a lot of families are no longer able to afford the mortgage and are forced to leave their homes. The banks are taking these homes, these houses, these apartments, and are becoming new owners of these houses and returning these apartments to the market for a new real estate speculation. Some final comments. Gentrification is a consequence of a neoliberal policy that takes advantage of capital gains generated by the urban regeneration. Regardless caused by an initial plan or as an unintended consequence of the plan, the fact is that gentrification for me is inevitable in a neoliberal free market. And you have the menu for today: abandon, regeneration, gentrification. The last slide. We need an interventionist policy led by the local authorities in partnership with inhabitants association to empower them on the right to the city. It's the only way to prevent and to solve the problems generated by gentrification. Urban regulations, taxes, for example, in Barcelona, as everywhere, we have a touristic tax. The municipality used the touristic tax to promote the tourism all over the world. Then we will have more tourists, and we will arrive to 10 million and 15 million. And the inhabitants say the tourist tax must return to the inhabitants that suffer the problem of the effects of the tourism. Then urban regulation, taxes, use of the capital gain generated by the urban regeneration for the inhabitants, good management of public space, and other action could result in improving the city and the living condition of its inhabitants. The big challenge is to find a good balance between residential, commercial, and leisure area. It is not easy, but we have to work together for it. Incorporating an avalanche of tourism is much more complicated. Many thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. And so, I will excuse me for my bad English. I'm French. My speech will be not focused on one case study, but different case studies to take in different experience that I had in different countries. And my idea is to try. I don't focus on gentrification as it is used generally with very big cultural assets, tourism. It's not working. So, my focus is not. I don't present a specific project like there was very good example like, given during these 2 days on very interesting projects. So I take different situation and try to do something which is related to urban change and social changes. Try to make a relation between both. Just this image to show that the biggest project in Europe, which is Paris-La Défense, the biggest CBD in Europe, was built on slum. So it's a very big, you can say, gentrification in that case, or big spatial and social change. It began only 50 years, 60 years ago. And in Paris-Saint-Denis, which is one of the biggest projects in Paris today, it is done on decayed industrial areas. And now it's becoming completely different with, it's not industries, it's offices, and with a lot of housing units, completely changed. So there is a lot of change, and all cities are working on this. So my discussion will be on urban changes and the relation with social changes, and I will speak as an urban planner and try to see how the urbanism tools are playing or exist or not to support or to mitigate, if there is, the social change that we can face. Just one point which is very important for me is that the urban planning or the urban policies, it is a cumulative process where from place to place, from cities or country to countries, we are very, very different contexts. It's linked with their own history, political history, and social condition and social fights that we have in this society. And so we cannot take solution from one place to the other because the contexts are never fit very well. But what we can say is that these tools are mirror of society, but in the long term, because of the cumulative aspect. So I take four examples, one in Paris, one in Mumbai, one in Istanbul, one in Phnom Penh, so very different cities, global cities and secondary metropolitan areas, very poor, very rich, or middle. And we'll see different society, different tools. So in Paris, it is a global city, like London, New York, Tokyo, very rich. And so I don't focus on this, but, and they are facing, like all big cities, they are facing big challenges regarding the urban changes, but regarding the housing, regarding the creation of jobs, regarding environmental concerns, climate change. But this is the result of the debates that we have during 9 years to prepare the regional master plan, and in which we never focus on the rent, on the rent from the land. It's not a concern for us. It's a problem, perhaps, but it's not the focus. In Paris, our policies are focused on the city we want, not how to make business with the city, or with the land, or with the real estate. Real estate and the land are just tools. Finance is a tool to prepare the city we want. And this is the result of the social democracy. And so it's work more or less. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good, but the focus is not on how to make money with the city. We make money with the city, a lot of money, but it is not the main concern. So we fix objectives. We'll never see the how to make money with FSI or with AR. And we want to have new jobs. It's jobs. The economy is jobs. It's not the rent. It's jobs. We are looking for dwelling units. We're producing half that's what we need. So we're working on accessibility, etc. We're a very complex system, a very cumulative system. This is the main planning documents from different sectors for climate change, for energy, for landscaping, for urban planning, for urban design, etc. This is for water resources, and each of these documents are working all together. So we cannot decide something in urban planning without, or urban change, without relation with the others. So this is a cumulative process. It's different from place to place. And we have also to prepare one document. This is just for the regional plan. This is the framework of the debates that we have with 12 million inhabitants. with large forums, surveys, polls, etc. during 9 years to prepare this. So it's a huge debate, and so we try to reflect with our planning process. We try to reflect the needs, or try to make convergence the representation of all the actors of the society. Of course, there is decision makers, but they cannot decide without this debate. We have a big fight with the state, big fight, or big discussion between municipalities, the administration, etc., with the politicians, with the civil society, but the result is something that tries to be consensual at 90-95%. So this is a special project. So we try to reduce urban extension, to reduce the kilometers of highways. We suppress a lot of highways from the previous master plan. We reduce the urban extension, and we try to make a compact city for, obviously, to face the climate change concern. And so the environment concerns are very, very important in the project. And so we define a tool. You see, this is the tool. This is the map from the master plan. So we put the transportation system, the accessibility. We put some connection for the greeneries, which is the green arrows. At the place where we have to change the city, which is the red points, the red dots. At this place, we have to change the city. We have to densify the city. We have to remove a lot of things, and we have to play on that. And for the urban extension, we have also different things. So at the end of the debate, we said that we have to change the city to make it better, and globally better, to face climate change. And we are in the process, a collective process, and to change a lot of places in the city. With the new metro line of 200 kilometers for the Greater Paris. And this is all the place where there are projects today and where we want to change the city. So we need to have in mind that when we are working on gentrification, social change, urban change, there is a lot. This is only not individual projects. This is all the big projects, like La Défense and smaller, but very neighborhood level projects. 10 minutes. So which is a quarter. So there is urban change with volunteers from the urban authorities, or a main aspect on which we're working on. But we have also, to do this project, we have a lot of mitigation policies with social housing, to accompany, and when you want to make projects, we need to reduce the impact of the change. We don't like eviction for two main reasons. Eviction is too expensive because of our laws, very expensive. So we cannot evict, very limited eviction in France. And politically, at the local level, for the election, it's quite impossible. So we don't make eviction for these two reasons, financial and political. Because it is the social democracy, and we have a lot of laws that impose if we have eviction, we have to compensate with social housing or to buy money. If we make expropriation, it's very, very expensive, and we cannot do that. It's too expensive for us. Istanbul is another story. Istanbul has a vision. Istanbul wants to come back on the map of the world. So there is a very big project, very clear project from the municipality and from the state to recover its place from the last 20 years. And in this project, they are providing, it is an internationalization of Istanbul, they are providing a lot of new infrastructure like metro, tramway, greeneries around all the peninsula, but also all the products that you know coming from, you said the capital, it is made by it's not global capital, it is global market with Carrefour, etc., but it is prepared by local investors, Turkish investors, to make towers for offices or residential units, and to prepare commercial. So it is a project to change the city and to change the face of the city and the equipment of the city. So they are preparing this kind of project one by one, or with the Hadid, it will not be implemented, I hope, but they a very big project of 500 hectares on the Asian part. So they have big ambition, and today they have the second highest tower in Europe, for example, in the middle. In the same time, they have a lot of slums. They have eviction policies to accompany the change, because there is conflict on the location for the land. And they have a social housing policy to accompany or to compensate. And of course, because of the price of the land, when they expropriate, when there is eviction, they put people at 30, 40 kilometers. And this is a big concern for these people, because the cost of the transportation and it's not well equipped, etc. So this is the reality of Istanbul. I want to focus on one project in this very terrible vision of the change of the city. We tried to do a project in the historical peninsula, which is Blat and Fener, in a very decayed area of only 16 hectares, with 12,000 inhabitants, very poor. 90% of the inhabitants were Kurdish and Rams, so they were not voting in the good way. Very poor. 90% were under the poverty line. And because it was financed by the European Union, and because it was under the supervision of UNESCO, we imposed to the municipality to keep the people on the site. It is because we have an external actor from Europe, from the global world, if you want, that we're able to face or to make opposition of the policy proposed by the municipality. They have already another project to make gentrification with tourism development, etc. Our project was completely different. We rehabilitated this neighborhood, some buildings, 125 in 3 years. We make public spaces, sewage, gas, social facilities, etc. And reshape the buildings. These buildings, there is about 500 very interesting buildings, classified buildings in that place. It is the last 19th century big neighborhood in Istanbul. So we did the project. And so this is the result. And but at the same time, the municipality was preparing other projects, like Circulate, that was exposed yesterday, and 4 other projects. And they say we make a gentrification project on the others. This is the main train of the policy. And in the list, the new list, after we're finishing the project, they put Blat and Fener, the same that we did. They will want to come back and to make their project, gentrification project. In fact, it's very difficult to change the trains, what they have in their mindset, when they want to make gentrification. If this process is dominant with the coalition of actors or with the municipality, you can try to do something. We did it. And probably we keep these people for 15 years. So we smooth the change, the social change. But they will come back with their project very quickly. And Mumbai is very, Mumbai has no vision, not at all. I was a counselor of the commissioner, and I asked him, what is your vision for the city? He told me, prepare a vision for me. I haven't. There is no vision for 12 million inhabitants, no vision at all. It's a big city. All the system is focused on FSI, how to make profit. And urban planning, urban design, no, urban land use regulation is focused on this, how to make profit. So it is very interesting if you are working on the rent gap. Mumbai is a perfect example. Paris is a very bad example. If you want to compare with France, last year in France, we put in the new law, we suppress FSI in all the land use regulation in France. After 5 years, there will be no FSI in the land use regulation. We reverse completely the system that we implement the first in the world in the 50s. In Mumbai, everything is focused on this. And so, when you are working on the different urban fabric, the main discussion that you have with all the urban planners is how to make more money on this and this and this parcel. Change the regulation and mainly the FSI to double, to quadruple, or to make 5 or 6 times the profit. So we did a study and we prepared a new land use regulation, and And so we have a very good analysis of plot by plot. We make an analysis building by building covering all the city. But before producing the regulation, we propose a vision that introduces new notions for Mumbai regarding urban heritage, regarding environment, and regarding jobs. After that, we prepare the regulation. So our idea is to try to mitigate the system, and so we produce this kind of urban regulation. I want to focus on one point, which is interesting, is the slums, because in Mumbai we have 46% of the inhabitants who are living in slums. So it's about 6 million inhabitants in the central city. And there is different system to reshape the slums, but it's not working well. After 20 years, they reshape only 10% of the slums. And it was very, there was a big shift, big change that was done with the new municipality. It was related several times when they make a promise to give free housing to all the slum dwellers. And so they did it. They were elected on this promise, and they did it, but without putting money, public money on that. They use the Thailand lease system with the land sharing, or you can negotiate. The investor negotiate with the land, the slum dwellers, and they invest. They buy all the. You buy the land is free. The investors make buildings for all the families with 16 square meters for each family, and you can double the floor to be built to make very high level, high income apartments. So we have a kind of mixed city, which is very interesting. We have a kind of populist system, which is merging with the capitalist system. So it's very interesting for both. A little bit strange system, and creating a very strange city with, on the same big parcel, you have very poor and very rich people. But in fact, the poor has a lot of money, so they sell it and they go elsewhere. A part of them, not all of them, but they have the choice to do that. So they have the system gives the possibility to the poor to have and to catch a part of the rent, of the money, the speculation coming from the land. So this is a point. And Phnom Penh is the capital city of Cambodia. So it's like Beirut. There is 2 minutes. Phnom Penh has like Beirut, about 1.8 million inhabitants. It's very poor, one of the poor country in the world. And in this country, which is interesting, in this city, like all metropolitan areas, you have the global capital is coming with big projects. But in fact, they are touching only a small part of the city, perhaps 2 or 3% of the surface of the city, of the area. In fact, the global market, the global finance, is not touching a lot of the cities in the developing countries. Most, 95, perhaps more, of the investment and the real building of the city is done by local investors with small project or medium-scale project, not the global market. So I think we have to revisit the idea that the global finance is shaping all the world, etc. This is not true. The reality on the ground, in perhaps 85%, perhaps 90%, it's difficult to say, of the urban production in the world, 1/3 is slums. And in the formal market, probably it is more than 50% of the formal market, which is not really concerned by the global finance. So we have to look on this city because it is the real city where the people are living. It's not empty apartments. So this is the production of the small or medium-scale project, covering all the suburbs and the slums. This is empty buildings. With the crisis of 2008, the Korean investors stopped the project. It will be ruins for decades and decades. So this is the result of the global market. There's nothing, in fact. There is no jobs, no inhabitants. just a concrete building, or there is others with offices. So we're working with the slums. It's quite finished in 1 minute. And for the slums, we tried different things to work with them. Like in Mumbai, we make land sharing. Very complicated, 10 years to do that for 1,700 families, but it was done with the sharing, with the, just close to that, there is a building for medium and high-class apartments. There is, in the same time, the contradictory in one city, you have some slums in the city center in red, and you have relocation in the suburbs at 15 kilometers, because there is competition for the land in the city center. And at the same time, on the big red area, here, there was no competition. The investors were not interested to go in that place. And the municipality put concrete, electricity, water supply, facilities, and it was completely land titling, and everything changed. And with the increase of the revenue of this population, some of them move, other remains in that place, or free to move it. So there was a social change, but it was supported by the project of the municipality, discussed with the population, but in a different process. So we have different, I want to give this example. In the same city, it's not one way. Depending on the location in cities, you can have different attitudes. And what is remarkable here in the city, Phnom Penh is a city without urbanism. There is no land use regulation. There is no building 8 urban design regulation, not at all, nothing. There is not any buses, no public transportation at all, no private, no public buses in the city. There is no urban policies, nothing. But there is action. There is action on policies for the poor or for other things, or for water supply, etc., but not really on urban planning and urban design. And in that case, coalition of actors are different from place to place. So it's quite a pure example to see what happened where urban planners doesn't exist. And so we did a master plan after that, but this is not regulation, so just a master plan, it's a strategy. Just to finish, 1 minute, no, 30 seconds. Just to say that gentrification is an interesting approach, but when you are looking about the international debate, this is from the UN Habitat, there is a lot of other concerns that we have when we are looking for the urban change. So to make a city resilient, a green city, a secure city, a planned city, an inclusive city, etc. Inclusive city is regarding the gentrification, but there is a lot of other aspects that we have introduced. And when you are looking for urban changes, we are looking not only for the gentrification or not. There is a lot of other questions that planners are looking for. And in fact, coming from the different situation that we're facing, we can say that each context is different because of their history, because of the mindset of the dominant mindset in the society itself. If it's different in Paris and Mumbai, there is different society that's working, different actors that are playing together. And if you want to play on that, you have to work on the mindset of the people. What you are saying about Beirut, we can say the same thing on Mumbai against the gentrification, if there is something against that. We have to work with the actors, and for that, you have to be active and to play your role where you are in the society and to try to change the mindset of all the actors that you are touching. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the time.